Oh, all right, guys. I got to get into some climate change news because I've spent a whole lot of time on this. Um, Afghanistan flash flood kills 160. Search for bodies continue. So more extreme weather events. In Kabul, rescuers in Afghanistan continued to search amidst mud and rubble for missing people on Saturday. After flash flooding this week killed around 160 people and washed away homes across the country. 13 provinces, mostly in the country's north, had been affected by floods, according to the Ministry for Disaster Management. In Parwan, just north of the capital, Kabul, 116 people have been killed and more than 120 injured, with 15 people still missing, national and local officials said. Rescue teams are still in the area and searching for the missing bodies, said Wahida Shakar, spokeswoman for the Parwan's governor. Flash flooding hit Parwan early on Wednesday, washing away homes and buildings. Local police spokesman Salim Nouri said the community in the worst affected areas were mostly farmers and informal workers who were already struggling financially, and that police were appealing for donations of blood for the many injured. The Ministry of Defense said the Afghan security forces were assisting in recovery efforts and distributing aid. The forces have also been dealing with rising violence from the insurgent Taliban as the start of the peace talks in Doha hit delays. NATO said that its forces were also supporting the Afghan military and had flown food, water, and blankets to the area earlier this week. Again, floods on floods on floods on floods. Thank you, Chigozi, for that article. This from Climate Watcher. Blue Ocean event. Scientists warning. #Arctic. Human activity has nearly melted an ice cap the size of the United States, 4 or 5 meters deep, in just the last 3 decades. So, if you need any other evidence that the Earth is warming, there's no possible way that we're going into a solar minimum. There's no possible way that climate change is a hoax or a fluke. And if you really need to stretch out your idiot brain, that's the poles are shifting, or the Earth is warming from the inside, or there's underwater deep sea volcanoes, or I don't know, anything but humans. Humans couldn't possibly have warmed the Earth. Why, we're doing just fine. You know what I'm saying? Humans are the smartest and the best. We always do the best thing. Because we're the smartest and the best. Everything we do is great. It's going to be just fine. Anyways, let me read this. Scientistwarning.org. This is titled Blue Ocean Event. Starts with a quote from Paul Beckwith. Everybody knows what happens in the Arctic does not stay in the Arctic. The Arctic in free fall. According to Jarvis Cocker, author at The Guardian who wrote The Iceman Cometh, of the Arctic sea ice, 75% has been lost over the last 30 years. Last year saw sea ice levels plummet to the second lowest since records began. It is estimated that the North Pole could be ice-free in the summer. Well, here's this for a laugh. Within the next 10 to 20 years. In the summer. Woo! That is a knee slapper right there. We'll be lucky if we got 10 more years, and we don't. I'm sorry to tell you that. Other researchers are also reporting that the Arctic is in free fall. Now, a new paper in the journal Climate suggests that the Arctic may be essentially ice-free during the summer within 15 years. Again, that's wildly off base. We're still, if you just look at this graph and say we have 15 more years of ice, you got to be some kind of stupid. You got to be the biggest, most optimistic, most rose-colored Pollyanna climate scientist the world has ever known to look at this graph and tell me, yeah, it's, about 15 more years. This is what happened in 30 years. 30 years, right? When we had a whole lot of ice. In 15 years, we went all the way down here. And in 15 years, we went all the way down here. Does this look like a 15-year gap to you? Can somebody stop lying? Can somebody out there please stop lying? Or at least, stop painting everything with it's going to be fine picture. Other studies are now warning that we have underestimated the pace of the melt. Of course you have. You absolutely have, due to inadequate modeling methods. We are getting dangerously close to losing this Amazon ecosystem. Amazon. How did I read amazing as Amazon? This amazing ecosystem due to human activities related to limitless growth economy. And that is dead on. I'm going to read that again. Related to limitless growth economy, and with it are cool. What is the Arctic death spiral? The Arctic death spiral refers to the scientific chart generated from satellite data in order to visually depict the disappearance of the Arctic since 1979. According to Skeptical Science, the first death spiral graphic is visually striking and clearly shows the loss of sea ice in all seasons. The circle spiral graph is stunning. And how you think that we have 15 years left is even more stunning. It even provides a tidy disappearing point for when months start hitting zero. Excuse me. Look how close to zero we are right here. This was, 2012. Yep. However, we cannot let this happen. If we lose the Arctic, we will also lose the jet stream. Well, I don't know who's going to... I don't know. What's this word let? What is this word let about? We can't let it happen. We're going to let it happen. Well, right now we're definitely letting it happen. And even if we do something right now, right at this very moment, it's going to happen. Let or not let. If we lose the Arctic, we also lose the jet stream. As we know it, the troposphere will expand, causing droughts and fires on many continents. Food production will be threatened, and we will be well on the way to a hothouse Earth state in a 4 to 7 sea world of monster storms and mass extinctions. Eminent and world-renowned researcher James Lovelock has been saying for over a decade that 6 billion people could perish by the end of the century. There's that lovely, lovely end of the century. Well, if you think that we have 15 years to get to a blue ocean event, you're delusional. And if you think that we got till the end of the century, also delusional. Additionally, a study by Scripps Institution of Oceanography finds a 5% chance that rapid global warming will be catastrophic or worse for the human race, and indicates a 6th mass extinction underway. Scientists estimate that 150 to 200 species of plant, insect, bird, and mammal are already becoming extinct every 24 hours. I'm going to read that again. 150 to 200 species of plant, insect, bird, and mammal are already becoming extinct every 24 hours. Arctic sea ice volume was 47% below the 1979 to 2018 average in this data set for July 2019 record low. It is on track to set more record lows in 2020. The following animation shows changes in both sea ice volume bar and sea ice thickness map in July, plural. Let's watch this. Hold on one second. Hold, please. Let's watch this. This is sea ice volume. So as you can see, all the yellow and the orange parts are where the thicker ice was. Here we are now. And very, very little multi-year thick sea ice left. And if you remember those photos from the North Pole, from Mosaic, the ice doesn't even really cover the ocean. Data shows that the rate of Arctic sea ice decline has slowed compared to 2012, which still holds the record for the lowest annual extent measurement. But this points to a deeper mystery for researchers. There are many charts and graphs available from Zach Labe at the Department of Earth System Science at the University of California, Irvine. Scientists' warning encourages everyone to use these and many more publicly available diagnostic tools to do their own research on the cryosphere. I don't know how much you have to research. You just look at a graph. I'm doing some heavy research here. I'm just looking at this graph, and it looks, it looks like the ice is melting there. Sudden and sharp fall in Arctic sea ice reported in early 2020. A sharp fall in Arctic sea ice extent was reported in the last week of March 2020 and is discussed in this video. Since the start of 2020, Arctic sea ice volume has been at a record low for the time of year. Indeed, temperatures are high over the Arctic Ocean, and this looks set to continue throughout the season. Surface temperatures off the coast of North America on March 18th, 2020 were as much as 12.5 C. 12.5 C or 2020.5 Fahrenheit higher than 1981-2011. So, how's that for an anomaly? 12.5 C, that is insane. Imagine if global temperatures were 12.5 C hotter. According to the NSIDC, Arctic sea ice extent, the area where ice concentration is at least 15%, reached its apparent annual maximum on March 5th, 2020. On March 24, the National Snow and Ice Data Center reported that the 2019-2020 growth season had an unexceptional finish, 5.81 million square miles. It was the 11th lowest maximum in the 42-year satellite history, or record. Arctic record high temperature anomalies February 2020. According to the researchers and Climate Reanalyzer data, the forecast for February 2020 shows surface temperature anomalies reaching both ends of the scale over North America, while the Arctic is 3.5 C or 6.3 Fahrenheit warmer than in 1979 to 2000. Due to this heat and Arctic amplification, some researchers are saying the Arctic sea ice extent is falling, and it may be that Arctic sea ice has already passed its maximum extent for the year, i.e., by February 9, 2020, at 14.03 million square kilometers. On February 18, 2020, Arctic sea ice extent was 13.96 million square kilometers, just above the 2010s average. At first glance, that may not sound worrying. However, sea ice volume is at a record low. That sea ice volume is all important. Is at a record low for the time of the year. In other words, sea ice is very thin, and there is little or no buffer left to consume the influx of warm, salty water from the Atlantic Ocean and Pacific Ocean. As long as there is sea ice in the water, the sea ice will keep absorbing heat as it melts, so the temperature will not rise at the sea surface. The amount of energy absorbed by melting ice is as much as it takes to heat an equivalent mass of water from 0 to 80 C. Meanwhile, temperatures keep rising globally, and more than 90% of global warming is going into oceans, which means the ice will be melted from above and below. What is a blue ocean event? Tell me, what is it? One of the biggest questions about global heating is when, or if, the Arctic will be ice-free each summer. Scientists such as Paul Beckwith have recently come to refer to this as the blue ocean event. As Arctic sea ice gets thinner and thinner, a blue ocean event looks more imminent every year. Generally, scientists define a blue ocean event as a complete absence of Arctic sea ice. A common threshold is when the area is less than 1 million square kilometers. This would allow the heat of the sun to fully penetrate the open waters of the Arctic. In this video, Paul Beckwith introduces the topic of a BOE and shows several resources that scientists and researchers use for monitoring the ice, such as NASA Worldview. There is no question that Arctic ice is in serious decline. According to Wikipedia, observation with satellites shows that Arctic sea ice area, extent, and volume have been in decline for a few decades. Sometime during the 21st century, sea ice may effectively cease to exist during the summer. Sea ice extent is defined as the area with at least 15% ice cover. The amount of multi-year sea ice in the Arctic has declined considerably in recent decades. In 1988, ice that was at least 4 years old accounted for 26% of the Arctic sea ice. By 2013, ice of that age was only 7% of all Arctic sea ice. And let me tell you, it's lower than that right now. Absolutely lower than that. I find it very, it's probably a little comforting to use the 2013 measurement, because 2020 is probably much lower than 7%. These abrupt changes indicate that human activity has nearly melted an ice cap the size of the United States, 4 or 5 meters deep, in just the last 3 decades. There is almost no multi-year ice left. The loss of the Arctic may produce many unintended consequences, including superwarming, known as polar amplification, increasing storm intensity, and meandering jet streams that will be discussed further here. It is thought, this is super long, guys, by the way. I don't even know if I can finish reading this, but I'm going to read what I can in this video because this is very, very important. It is thought that Arctic ice melt beyond a certain point will not regenerate, right? So, that is a concept that, once we reach blue ocean event in the summer, that basically the ice will pretty much just not come back. There might be a small layer of ice during the winter, but in general, there won't be an Arctic ice cap. Recent studies indicate that Arctic sea ice cannot quickly bounce back if climate change causes it to melt, and further, that sea ice coverage shifts over timescales of decades to centuries, so shrinking ice cannot be expected to return rapidly, even if climate change is slowed or reversed. When do you think that might occur? There is an ongoing debate as to whether the Arctic Ocean has already passed its tipping point. A tipping point is defined as a threshold breached for abrupt and irreversible change. In any case, it is a dangerous tipping point to approach at all. Arctic sea ice is melting at its fastest rate in 1,500 years, and the warmer winters are suggesting disastrous changes to come. However, a BOE is not considered a complete meltdown, just an indicator. Really? Here comes the Pollyanna part. Just an indication of an impending one. A BOE would happen in the summer, according to polar researchers, and the ice could still refreeze in the winter. Could, operating word could. If the ice becomes unable to refreeze in the winter, we will soon be in a new world. It would be a worst-case scenario, never seen in recorded human history. If we allow all the ice to melt, there will be nothing to prevent the Arctic waters from rising above freezing. The amount of energy absorbed by melting ice is as much as it takes to heat an equivalent mass of water. We just read that already, from 0 to 80 C. This latent heat effect of increasing open water pools, known as polynyas, not polyanas, polynyas, will produce knock-on cascading warming for the globe and weather chaos. This means, in effect, that the Northern Hemisphere's air conditioner would fail. We would quite literally lose our cool. I'm going to take a little break there. Fairy Dust says, methane fear here. We have 153 watching, guys, 52 likes. Please like up the video. If you're new, please subscribe. Salt Lakers, I suspect Santa is a Republican. Okay. Basil says, Pingos look cute. Indeed. Donald McCarthy says the heat needed to melt ice will do crazy things to water. Alexei Kuperinin says not a single soul talking about Baltic BOE. Well, and what about the Laptev BOE as well? There are a lot of parts of the Arctic, a lot of different seas in the Arctic Circle or Arctic region that are free of ice right now, for sure. You're right. Kuro hikes. Negan, I like your style. That's funny. Anyways, let's go back to this. It would also mean the loss of the ancient lands of the ice and snow from which our ancestors immigrated that has served us for 11,000 relatively stable years of the Holocene. Knowing that we are in any way approaching this dangerous point of no return should be enough to jolt everyone or anyone into action. How about everyone? Toward mitigating climate change, implementing sustainable economies, and saving the Arctic. Well, you would think, wouldn't you? Well, if people don't know, then if nobody's reporting this on CNN, guys, the Arctic ice cap is almost gone. Guys, what do you think we ought to do? Oh, coronavirus. Okay, forget it. Melting ice dramatically reduces albedo and accelerates the rate of warming in the Arctic. The reduced albedo effect due to vanishing sea ice is already responsible for about 25% of global warming, according to Jennifer Francis, the amazing genius Jennifer Francis, a research professor at Rutgers University. The more the ice melts, the more the algae blooms take over and create what is known as watermelon snow. This is just another indication of the many feedbacks at work here. The legendary climate scientist Veer Habadran Ramanathan and colleagues quantified the Arctic ice albedo feedback and found that it was quite substantial. The effect of rapid Arctic warming on regional weather and lower latitudes were also reviewed here. We're already getting hotter because sea ice is shrinking. NASA reported that winter Arctic sea ice extent has already hit an all-time low. Arctic sea ice figures and graphs show this happening at an unexpected rate. The summer of 2012 is on record as the lowest in year-to-year Arctic sea ice extent. However, it is worth noting that the extent is likely a more deceptive measurement than ever before because the ice itself is now thin, young, spread out by winds and buffeted by ocean currents. It is likely to look bigger than it is because of this and because it has lost significant volume. Most of the multi-year ice is now gone. It is also important to understand and also monitor the ice volume or thickness, also known as concentration, which is often overlooked. NSIDC provides a daily updated concentration report. NOAA released their 2018 Arctic report card with some fairly stark warnings about the status of that region. Since then, further updates have suggested that this year could be one of the most precarious for summer Arctic sea ice, says David Borlass of Just Have a Think. Well, yeah, he does good videos, very scientific. If not, he also engages in a lot of techno utopia, but that's another subject. In the following video, the latest update on Arctic sea ice discusses what's happening in the Arctic and why scientists are so concerned. The shrinking sea ice is clearly and simply caused by rising global temperatures that stem from the burning of fossil fuels such as oil, gas, coal, according to the National Snow and Ice Data Center. Also, it is important to note this is a very thorough article. So if anybody doesn't understand what's happening in the Arctic, if you have a friend or a loved one that really doesn't get it or doesn't understand what's going on, I suggest sending them this article because this is really covering, all the bases here. And I won't even be able to read this whole thing before I have to go. But we'll finish this section here. Also, it is important to note that just because it's cold outside or we get a snowstorm doesn't mean the polar regions are not warming overall and in decline. This article discusses how it happens that a warming Arctic is linked to extreme cold and heavy snowfall in the U.S. We discuss this all the time. It's called polar vortex, or, the warm air and water in the Arctic pushes out the cold air that is supposed to stay in the Arctic, pushes it out over land masses such as North America, Europe, Russia, etc. They get very cold weather, and everybody's like, "Oh, how about that grand solar minimum?" When they really just don't understand climate change because they're stupid. or they intentionally don't want to understand that, which means that they're stupid and evil. Founded in 2007 by James Baylog, the Extreme Eye Survey is an innovative long-term photography program that integrates art and science to give a visual voice to the planet's changing ecosystems. This project has resulted in thousands of incredible images documenting this changing landscape and the loss of ice around the world. The EIS project provides video and expertly photographed footage of what is happening in places most of us will never be able to visit because they are so distant, cold, and remote. Let's see. You know what, guys? Maybe this is super long. I don't know. I might come back and cover some of this tomorrow. Maybe not. Maybe this is at scientistswarning.org, titled Blue Ocean Event. So if you just want to Google this and send this to your friends or post this on your social media feeds, wherever you like. Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you can support the channel. The links below, PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there, and thanks so much.